What is up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, welcome to my channel. My name is Tatiana Dueñas. For today's video, I'm going to be finally talking about and sharing with you guys my labor and delivery experience. So I'm actually in my car right now, and I'm trying to really catch the light before it goes down, because I just feel like I'm able to talk freely without having to worry about waking up the baby, making noise, people interrupting. So I just came into the car really quick to just kind of film this video for you guys. But before we get into the video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Also subscribe down below if you're new, and turn on the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post future videos. And before we start, let me go ahead and just say that this is my personal experience. This is what I went through. So everyone's pregnancy experience and labor and delivery experience are obviously different. Everyone goes through it differently. There is no right or wrong way to give birth, to have a baby. If you have a birth plan, great. If you don't, great. This story just involves my opinions, you know, my experience with labor and delivery and so on and so forth. Just wanted to clear that out. But let's go ahead and get straight into the story. I'm gonna pull up my calendar so I get my dates straight. So for those of you who are new here, I found out I was pregnant with my son in July of 2021, and I was due in March. They gave me a due date of March 24th, 2022. That is actually my dad's youngest brother's birthday, so he was going to share birthdays with my tío. I had a feeling he was going to come early. A lot of people said that they were thinking that he was going to come late. Pregnancy wise, I had a very smooth pregnancy. Physically and emotionally, it was a little draining, but physically I had a really good pregnancy. I just felt good. I was continuing to work out as best I can. I didn't have any morning sickness. The only thing that I did get was really bad sciatica the first trimester, but after that I was okay. So I had a feeling like, okay, he's gonna come early. So I was due to take my maternity leave a few weeks, maybe about 2 weeks before his due date, because I swore he was gonna come early. For those of you who don't know, when it comes to getting closer to a woman's due date, the prenatal appointments get closer and closer in dates, and like, you know, they get closer, so you get about one appointment each week. So my last appointment before his due date was the 22nd of March, and I went in and, you know, she checked my cervix. A week prior to that, my OB actually did a membrane sweep, which is basically trying to get your cervix to soften up and, you know, get ready for labor. So we did that, and on the 22nd I went back in and she checked my cervix, and she was like, okay, your cervix is softened up, but you're not dilating. You have not dilated. And at that point I thought I was already gonna be at least 2-3 centimeters dilated, because, you know, a lot of women in my family had dilated, you know, early. They're on their own without their water breaking. Their dilation had started early, so I assumed I was going to dilate, or like, you know, be dilated and not know it. So I was kind of bummed out. She was like, okay, we'll give you another appointment, you can come back in a week, and we'll go ahead and we'll check you then. So I went back in the 30th of March, and that was like the final appointment. Kind of like, she said, you know what, if you come in on the 30th and you're not dilated, we're gonna have to induce you. And I'm not against induction. I'm not against anything really. I honestly just wanted to experience, like, to have my body experience it naturally. I may have been a little hard on myself, but the way I thought about it was like, okay, this is the one thing my body like is meant to do, so I really would like want it to do it on its own, which is, you know, dilate on its own. You know, I drank raspberry leaf tea, I did my squats, I did like little ball, the yoga ball exercises, everything. I did curb walking. I tried everything to get my son out, and he just was not budging. On the 30th of March, my boyfriend and I went in for my appointment. My OB checked me again, and I was so like ready to hear the words like, you're dilating, but I wasn't. So she said, I'll have a nurse come back in, schedule you guys for an induction, and we can go ahead and go from there. So I was like, okay. So she walked out, and I started crying, and, you know, my boyfriend's like, what's wrong? Like, don't cry, like, it's okay, you did nothing wrong. And I'm like, I know, it's just like a really, not a sucky feeling. I was just really sad. I was like, you know, I was really excited, and I really wanted to be to having been dilated already. At that point I was 6 days overdue, so it was really frustrating for me. And it wasn't per se that I wanted my son out, I just was really, I guess, anxious to meet him. So the nurse comes back in and she schedules me. We're scheduled for April 3rd. They went ahead and they gave me a time to call back. I went to sleep pretty late the night before. It was probably about 4 in the morning that I went to sleep, so I basically went to sleep 4 hours before I had to call. So I woke up at 8 in the morning on the 3rd, and I called labor and delivery at my hospital where I was due to give birth, and I explained to them the situation, and she said, okay, we'll go ahead and give you a call back when you're ready to come in, when we have a bed ready, because we are kind of just full at the moment. We'll put you on the list for induction. We'll call you. If you miss our call and you don't call us back in time, then we are going to give your bed away, and you're going to be added to the bottom of the list. So I said, okay. Come 11:30ish, they give me a call back, and I miss it, but by like a second. So I call back, and she was like, yeah, we have a bed ready, like how fast can you get here? And I had said maybe about 25-30 minutes, but it took me about an hour to even get my stuff and leave the house. I already had my hospital bag packed, the baby's hospital bag packed, the car seat was done, like we were ready. It was just a matter of getting over there. My boyfriend and I picked up my mom and we went ahead and we headed over to the hospital. We checked in, and by the time I was admitted and already, like, you know, changed into my gown, IV set up in my arm, everything, it was maybe about 2:30 or 3. Truth be told, I have all these tattoos and it still scares me to get like a needle placed in my arm. So when they put the IV in, I got kind of nauseous. They connected my belly to the baby monitor to watch baby's heartbeat, heart rate. They connected me to the contraction reader, and I was having contractions, but they weren't hard and they weren't strong, but they were showing on the reader. They were maybe about 10-15 minutes apart, I would say, give or take, so it was pretty rough. They came in, they explained to me the induction methods. They went ahead and explained each one and how if one didn't work, then move on to the next one. If one didn't work, then move on to the next one. And I always had the option of just waiting for my body to dilate on its own. But my body was dilating at such a slow pace, so I knew that wasn't going to be an option for me. So they went ahead and they checked my cervix, and I was about 1/2 centimeter dilated by myself. 1/2 centimeter, like out of 10, come on now. So the nurse comes in and she explains to me the first method of induction they're going to give me, which is a little tablet or like a pill to try to get my body to start dilating quicker. They gave me 1 dose. They said, okay, we'll come back in 4 hours. If it helped at all, we'll go ahead and give you the second dose. So if I'm not mistaken, it had to help me dilate to a certain extent to have been considered working. She gave it to me and I went an hour with it in my system. After that first hour with it in my system, I was able to eat. We ate, and she came in around the 4-hour mark after I had taken that first tablet, and she checked my cervix again, and I was only 1 centimeter dilated. So she said, you know what, I can't give you the second dose, and we can't start you on Pitocin until you're at least 6 centimeters. And I was like, wow, okay, so what's my next option? So she explains to me something called a Foley balloon. The way she explained it, it's basically a balloon that's kind of like a water balloon that they stick up your women area, and they fill it with saline. So once they fill it with saline, obviously it expands, and that's supposed to confuse the cervix and press on the cervix wall to get it to start dilating. It's supposed to confuse the cervix in a sense of making it think like this is the baby's head pressing down to get me to dilate. She said, you know, you have that option. And I looked at my boyfriend and I was like, in my head, I'm like, I don't know if I want this option, because I had heard so many stories, like good and bad, about this balloon. They say, oh yeah, it's supposed to make you cramp, like it feels like your period cramps. It's not that hard, like it's not that strong. Then I have a friend who had explained to me that her sister-in-law had gotten it and how they downplay the situation. She said it hurts so bad, but everybody has like different pain tolerance, so it's just really up to you. So I looked at my boyfriend and I was like, I don't know. She's like, okay, well, if you don't take the Foley balloon, then you're gonna have to just wait it out if your body dilates on its own, but that can take hours. If done properly, it opens you up to at least 6 centimeters to where the balloon will slip out. Once it slips out on its own, then that's considered that it worked. It did its job, right? So you had to use the bathroom with this balloon up there. You had to, you know, basically do all of your things with the balloon up there. And there's like a little like stick that kind of is stuck to the edge of the balloon, and they tape it to the inner portion of your thigh. You know what? I went ahead and I said, okay, we'll give it a shot. She said, okay, worst case scenario, if it gives you a lot of pain, we'll go ahead and we'll take it out. It's easily removable. It just felt like a long cervix check. Like when they filled the balloon and everything, I felt it. I felt everything, and it was kind of painful, but it was a long process. The way I thought about it was like, why would I get this taken out like so soon just because it hurts, if it hurt even more to get put in? Does that make sense? They went ahead and they filled it with saline. Around 2:40 in the morning on April 4th, I had the balloon up there for about maybe 45 minutes, and I looked at my boyfriend and I was like, I can't do this. I was cramping so bad, but it was not like period cramps to me. It was worse. Again, I have a high pain tolerance, but it was bad. I could not walk. I was in so much pain. The thing with me is I'm super like headstrong, so as much as it hurt, I refused to get it taken out, because what was the whole point of it hurting? You know what I mean? It would have just been pointless to have gotten it placed in there in the first place. So the nurse came in, and I had these sweetest night nurses. Oh my god, like when I tell you guys, I was like so happy with my night nurses. And so she came in and she actually gave me some fentanyl in my IV to help, you know, kind of kill the pain. We won't say it killed the pain, but it took my mind off of the pain. So I was able to sleep for at least 4 hours. I woke up around maybe 7 a.m. At that point, my mom had left and came back already. You know, she came to shower and get the kids something to eat and stuff, and then she went back to the hospital. She got back around 3 a.m. on April 4th. So I Woke up at around 7 or 8 in the morning, and I had a new nurse in the morning. She went ahead and she checked the Foley balloon for me, and it was still really stuck up there, and she couldn't give me a cervix check until the balloon fell out, or until the balloon was out. So she went ahead and she checked the balloon, was ready to be taken out. So she went ahead and she walked out. She came back in around 11:30 in the morning. She tugged on the little stick that was taped on the inside of my thigh, and the Foley balloon just kind of slid out. So she was like, oh, okay, we'll have, you know, the midwife come in and we'll have her check your cervix to see what's going on. So she checked my cervix, and I was 6 centimeters dilated. Thank God. That honestly made it all worth the pain. Like, I was like, okay, because I know for a fact my body would have taken forever to dilate to that point. After they removed the Foley balloon, they ripped my water bag. Like, they went ahead and they took like their little instrument and like ripped my water bag, so my water was slowly leaking out. You know, in my head I had seen movies where girls' water just like whoosh, gushes out. That was not the case for me. So after she checked me at 11:30 and told me I was 6 centimeters and started me on Pitocin, she said, I'll be back around 3:30 or 4 to check you again. So I said, okay, cool, sounds great. So at that point she said, okay, we can go ahead and start you on the Pitocin. Pitocin is basically going to make your contractions stronger, more close together, so they can go ahead and speed up the labor and delivery process. They went ahead and they connected the Pitocin to my IV, and once that Pitocin hit my system, I promise you I had never felt a pain like that. And the thing is, they only bumped it to 1 dosage of Pitocin. They started me on 1 dose, and when I tell you that those contractions were so tough. And keep in mind, I didn't go in, well, I guess you can say it kind of was a birth plan. I didn't go into the hospital with a birth plan. I just knew I didn't want the epidural. I'm not against the epidural. I just, in my head, I'm like, you know what? I want to see how long I can go without it. I want to see if I can do a natural, you know, vaginal birth. Hopefully, you know, praying. Again, nothing wrong with C-sections, nothing wrong with epidurals. Like, I'm all for it. Whatever it takes to get a healthy baby to this earth, right? Preferably myself, I just didn't want the epidural. I took those contractions, and they were at that point 3 to 5 minutes apart, and I'm sitting there watching them on the monitor, so I know exactly when they're coming, aside from already feeling them. I was gripping the sides of the hospital bed so tough. At one point, it took maybe about 20-30 minutes like on Pitocin for me to start crying. I started crying because the pain was so bad. And once the Pitocin hit my system, those contractions got so strong. They were about 3 to 5 minutes apart, and maybe come around 5-ish, I got a new nurse. She was the sweetest ever. Like, we were talking about the Kardashians, we were like gossiping, we were talking about the news, we were talking about where she was from, where I was from. She was prepping me for the 2nd dosage of Pitocin. She was just the sweetest ever, and it's kind of like unfortunate how everything comes out to play afterwards, but she was just the sweetest thing ever. And she came in and she checked my dilation. She's like, okay, she's like, you're still at 6, so we're gonna go ahead and just try to see if we can up the Pitocin a little bit. So they bumped the Pitocin up to another dosage, and I'm sitting there taking these contractions. After that 2nd dosage of Pitocin, my contractions were 2 to 3 minutes apart, and they were so much stronger. I was crying. At that point, my boyfriend got closer to me, and I was just gripping like his wrist while gripping the side of the bed. I was like almost biting the pillow. Like, they were tough. It was really hard. It was around 7 p.m. She comes in again, and she checks my cervix, and there's no one else in the room but her and my boyfriend. So this is just my nurse, my boyfriend, myself, and my mom. There's no one else in the room. She checks my cervix, and she's like, oh, you're ready to push. And I'm not feeling not a thing, just my contractions. I don't feel anything. I don't know how many new mommies or how many mommies have been told this, but I was told, and a lot of people have told me, it feels like you want to take a big ass shit. Like, when you're about to give birth and your baby's about to come out, it feels like you're gonna take a big shit. Like, that's what it feels like. So I wasn't feeling anything, so I'm sitting there like, oh my god. And I looked at my boyfriend, I'm like, oh my god, like, are you ready? Like, are you ready? Like, I was so nervous. We had my camera with me because I did not vlog like that. I just kind of got clips here and there for when the baby gets older and I can show him. He set up my camera behind me to where you can see me pushing. Like, you can't see anything obviously down there, but you can see me pushing. And we wanted to catch the baby, you know, coming out and being put into my arms on camera. So we set up the camera and everything. We were ready. She prepped me on how to push. She went out to the room, said she was looking for the doctor and the midwife and, you know, the labor and delivery team. She comes back in by herself, and she's like, no one is available. They're all in labor and delivery. We have to do this ourselves. And my mom's looking at me like, oh my god, like, can we do that? And my boyfriend's like, he started laughing and he was like, can we do that? And she was like, yeah. She's like, it's fine, we're all trained, this and this and that. They trained me, they prepped me, they're watching my contractions. She said, you know, go ahead and take deep breaths and breathe through each contraction. So when you feel like a contraction's coming, go ahead and just breathe through it. And I'm sitting there like, okay, like, so I'm focused on the pain, but I also have to focus on like breathing, but I also have to focus on pushing. So it's like, I'm sitting there kind of like, okay, every contraction that comes, I'm pushing. And like, honestly, like, to be completely transparent with you guys, like, I shit myself pushing. Like, I shit myself. I peed a little bit because I pushed so hard. And I was pushing for about an hour and a half, which did not feel like an hour and a half at all. It felt like maybe 20 minutes at most. And nothing was happening. So she had the midwife come in. Now, this is where it gets like frustrating for me. So that midwife who comes in is the midwife that was supposed to come back in at 3:30 or 4 p.m. to check me after the Foley balloon was taken out of me, to see where I was after that 6 centimeter mark. So she never came back in at that point. Usually, or in my case scenario at least, the midwives were the ones that were calling the shots. They were the ones who were saying, okay, she's ready, she's ready, she's ready. So she calls in the midwife, and the midwife comes in, and I kid you not, this midwife, like, she was so unprofessional and a little bit rude. Like, my mom and I caught onto her attitude. She comes in with the nurse and she checks me. Mind you, I'm in the middle of contractions, and she checks me and she's like, why do you have her pushing? She's not ready. She's still 6 centimeters. I started crying. It was a strenuous hour and a half. I pushed so hard, my core hurt, you know, my head hurt. I was exhausted, to say the least. I was so tired and I was so frustrated. Just thinking about it now makes me so mad. And I didn't say anything because I'm in the middle of giving birth. So of course, like, I'm in labor. I'm in active labor. So I'm like, you know what? I just started crying. I got so frustrated that I cried. So the nurse is like, no, I thought she was ready. Like, I thought she was 10 centimeters. Midwife is like, no, here, look. And then I look at the midwife and I'm like, wait, can you not have her like check me out? I'm in the middle of a contraction. I was going through an active contraction. And she has the nurse, and the nurse is sitting there very persistent. She's like, no, like, it's fine. Like, I don't want to check her right now. Like, it's fine. I believe you. I take your word for it. She's like, no, put on a glove. Here, put on a sterile glove and I'll show you. They both have literally their hands pretty much up in my hoo-ha, like, checking me at the same time as I'm going through an active contraction. I'm like, how much more unprofessional can you be? I'm not a test subject. I'm not a, you know, a dummy. I'm literally like a live person in active labor, about to give birth to my baby or trying to give birth to my baby, and you're sitting there using me as like a life class. Like, I don't understand. Like, my mom her blood was boiling. She went off on them. We asked for her name. She didn't want to give me her name. Luckily, we saw her name on the board. Obviously, they put their name on every time that the nurses like change shifts. They'll go ahead and put their names, and the midwives as well. They, you know, lowered my bed. They put everything back to normal. And at that point, I'm still going through some hard contractions and I'm crying. At this point, I am bawling, you guys. I'm not even joking. I was nonstop crying. I was telling my boyfriend, like, and my mom, I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I remember screaming to the top of my lungs, I can't do this. My mom was like, yes, you can. You've come this far. You can do this. And I'm like, no, I cannot. I can't do this. And I started crying even more because I'm like, how fair is that? Like, I told them, how fair is that now I have no choice but to get an epidural because I am so tired. I am so tired of pushing. I was pushing for an hour and a half when I wasn't even ready because I was told I was ready. It's my first baby, so I don't know what, like, being ready to push felt like. So it's my first baby, so when they tell me to push, I'm gonna push, you know what I mean? I'm a first-time mom. It's all new to me. And my boyfriend was like, you know, is there any way that we can get her like a painkiller or something? So they tried more fentanyl. It didn't help at all. They went ahead and they tried laughing gas, and it helped maybe for about 10 minutes, but then I was like, you know what, I can't do it. It does not helping. So everybody's asking me, you know what, honey, like, you're fine. You want to take the epidural? You can. Now's the time to do it. You're only about, I think at that point I was about 7.5 centimeters, and I wasn't dilating anymore. Like, that's where I was stuck after that. So they were like, you know what, it doesn't make you any less of a mom. Like, everybody does it. Go ahead and take the epidural. And I was like, I don't want to, but I know I have to. And my boyfriend's like, look, regardless, the baby's gonna be healthy. That's all that matters. I know you don't want it, but just take the epidural. Like, you look so tired. Like, just take the epidural. And I'm like, you know what, like, I didn't feel pressured at all. That's the thing. It sounds like they were pressuring me, but honestly, I did not feel pressured at all. I was just so hurt. I was so sad, like, that I had no choice. In my head, I felt like I had no choice but to take it because I was so tired. My body was so fatigued. I was out of it. Like, I was exhausted. At that point, when I knew nothing else was working, I was like, you know what, give me the epidural. But I was about 7.5 when I asked for the epidural. I had the anesthetics department come in and, you know, prep for the epidural. There were so many people in a span of like an hour and a half. There was like so many people in my room because I had everyone who came in to give me the laughing gas. I had everyone who came in to give me the fentanyl. Like, there was so many people in my room. I was super overwhelmed. Like, it was a lot. And so they prepped me. They went ahead and they sat me up to sterilize my back to get me ready for, you know, the epidural. I'm sitting at the edge of my hospital bed on the side, leaning forward, and, you know, they put the cap on me, and at that point I was shaking, and I had my boyfriend, you know, facing me, so he was standing in front of me, and I was like grabbing his hands, and I was like shaking. Literally, I was shaking from the shock, I'm pretty sure, from pushing and just the pain and everything. So every time they were about to inject me with the epidural, I was like shaking. Then around maybe 11:10-ish, I get the sensation that I need to shit. Like, I need to take a fat poop. I got goosebumps all over my body, and I told my boyfriend, I was like, I have to push. I feel like I have to push. I have to push. Either that or I have to shit, but I have to push. And he's like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. So at that point, they had already like sterilized my back, and they had already pinpointed where they were going to inject the needle for the epidural. But I was like, you know what, I have to push. So the nurse who had me pushing for that hour and a half was still my night nurse. So he called her over. He's like, she says she has to push, can you check her? So they laid me back right then and there before the anesthesiologist was able to, you know, inject me with the epidural. She checked me. She's like, no, there's nothing there, like, you're not ready. And I was like, no, like, I feel ready, like, I have to push. And she's like, there's nothing there. So they sent me back up, and they're like, stay still. And I'm like, I'm trying so hard. And then again, I get the sensation that I have to push. Like, I was like, I have to push. Like, I kid you guys not that if I hadn't laid back that second time saying I had to push, my son would have probably been born while I was sitting up just like this. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I have to push. And then so my boyfriend got frustrated, and he was like, look, she's saying she has to push. You need to check her now. Like, you need to check her. She says she has to push. They went ahead and they were like, oh, she said, no, it's fine, I just checked her. And he was like, no, you need to check her again. She has to push. So they laid me back, and she checked me, and she was like, oh, you're ready to push, you're crowning. And I took a sigh of relief because I was literally seconds away from getting the epidural, which was not part of my plan from the beginning. And even the anesthesiologist, you know, prior was like, you know, he said, if she needs to push, please let her see if she needs to push first before we give her the epidural. So he walked out as soon as he saw that I was ready to give birth. He was like, I'm out of here. And I see movies where, you know, girls are screaming in the labor and delivery room, and I'm like, oh, it's never been that serious. I was that girl. I'm pretty sure everybody in the hallway could hear me screaming, like, giving birth. Not that the pushing was, I'm not gonna say hard per se, it was just strenuous because I was already tired from the hour and a half. So everything hurt to push. I had no energy, so I was screaming at the top of my lungs, pushing. I don't even know how many pushes it took. I know it took about 20 minutes for me to push, which felt like 5. Everything happened so fast. I'm telling you guys, like, after all this, I'm still so sad that I didn't get the clip of my son being put onto my chest on camera because I was told to push when I wasn't ready. So everything was moving too fast when I was ready, so no one had time to take out the camera. But so I went ahead and I pushed for 20 minutes, and my son was born on April 4th at literally 11:40 something. Like, I kid you not, he barely made April 4th. I thought it was just crazy because aside from April 4th being his birthday, it's also my mom's younger brother's birthday, my Theo's birthday. He passed away in 2006. And then it's also one of my cousins from my mom's side as well, who was born on that same day. So he shares a birthday with both of my family members. April 4th, 2014 was my boyfriend and I's official first date. You know, like when he first asked me to be his girlfriend when we were in high school. And we make fun of it now because, like, we were on and off so many times that that date didn't really stick, but I thought it was so cute that he was born on that same day, like literally 8 years later. It's crazy. And that was that. Afterwards, I felt a sigh of relief. I felt so much relief. And then I remember, because as soon as I gave birth, they were like, okay, we need to go ahead and have you push out the placenta now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Push again? But I didn't have to push. She just kind of like pulled it out, and it kind of just glided out. And they went ahead and massaged my abdomen to make sure that there was no blood clots or anything. April 4th, my son's birthday, I did not tear. I had a natural labor. The only thing was that I had to get induced, but otherwise everything was fine. And thankfully I had a healthy 8-pound even baby. So now thinking about it, and even like about a week postpartum, I was always telling everybody who asked me how my labor and delivery went, I explained to them, look, I always said women are so strong. Like before I even got pregnant, before I had my son, before anything, I was always like, women are so strong, women are so strong. But honestly, I feel like a badass. Like, to be able to endure that pain, like, I felt so accomplished. And I'm not saying it makes you any less of a person if you didn't get to have a natural birth, or, you know, you weren't induced, or you had to get the epidural. Like, everybody's experience and story is going to be different. Every woman is a strong woman. Like, me personally, I just felt like, damn, I'm such a badass. Like, and it's not as cliche as it sounds, it's not wrong what they tell you. They're always like, you know what, like once you see your baby, all that pain is going to be forgotten. And I literally to this day have forgot that pain. I was like, you know what, they're so right. Like, so now he is going on 4 months, and I swear time is flying by. But I wanted to just, you know, share my story with everybody, because so many people were asking me to share my labor and delivery story, and I couldn't really sum it up in a post because it was wild. It was crazy, and I couldn't have done it without the support of my boyfriend and my mom. They were amazing in the labor and delivery room. My mom actually got to experience her first live labor and delivery with her firstborn, so that was special. Now to this day we kind of crack jokes about it, because I'm trying to change, and I'm like, Mom, can you get out? I have to change. And she's like, I've already seen everything. And I'm like, yes, I know, but I still need you to step out so I can change. That was just my experience. Towards the end of the day, one of the higher ups from the nursing department actually came in to ask me how my labor and delivery experience was, and how I would rate it, and what went wrong or what didn't go wrong. And my mom explained to me, because where I gave birth, my mom had given birth to all my siblings. I was the only one who wasn't a Kaiser baby. But my mom was like, they've never done that, they don't ever do that. She must have heard what happened, because that midwife who we caught her name, she never came back into the room. Like, once I went into labor, like, she just dipped. Like, so it was really unprofessional of her. Thankfully I got her name. I explained to the higher up who came in to speak with me, you know, that I had a pretty good labor and delivery up until that point. I explained to her what went wrong, how I felt, and she was like, you know what, we apologize on the behalf of the nursing and labor and delivery department and stuff. So, you know, aside from it having gone that way, I am super grateful that my baby came out happy and healthy. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a good healthy 8-pound baby. Yeah, we were on cloud 9 forever, and I'm still on cloud 9. I still look at my son like, hey, you're mine, like, you are ours. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, that was my labor and delivery experience slash story. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have to get back to my son now. But again, if you haven't already, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Also, subscribe down below if you are new, and turn on the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post future videos. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next video.